Former Democratic National Committee interim chair Donna Brazile makes explosive allegations about how the party's presidential nominee, Hillary Clinton, made a deal to keep the Democrats afloat during last year's campaign. In her upcoming book, which will be released November 7th, it's called Hacks, the inside story of break-ins and breakdowns that put Donald Trump in the White House. Brazile says the DNC was rigged in favor of Clinton because her campaign was financing the financially strapped party. Brazile writes the agreement for Clinton to help shore up a party that was $2 million in debt wasn't illegal, but it sure looked unethical and, quote, compromised the party's integrity. Brazile, in a piece that was excerpted in thepolitical.com, writes that as Hillary's campaign gained momentum, she resolved the party's debt and put it on a starvation diet. It has become dependent on her campaign for survival, for which she expected to wield control of its operations. Brazile says she found a joint fundraising agreement between the DNC, the Hillary Victory Fund, and Hillary for America that specified that in exchange for raising money and investing in the DNC, Hillary would control the party's finances, strategy, and all the money raised. Brazile says when she called candidate Bernie Sanders to tell him about this and to urge him to bring his supporters to Clinton in hopes of defeating Donald Trump, this took place in September of last year, she cried out of anger after she hung up. Hillary Clinton has so far not commented. Joining us now via phone from Cleveland, Ohio, is former Ohio State Senator and Bernie Sanders supporter Nina Turner. And also joining us via FaceTime from New York is DNC Vice Chair Michael Blake. Nina, I want to start with you. So Bernie Sanders supporters are saying this is the smoking gun in terms of the party being aligned against Bernie Sanders. Your thoughts upon reading this excerpt from Donna's upcoming book?
Well, stunning, you know, not so surprising. As you pointed out, Bernie Sanders supporters, or Bernie-crats, if you will, have always suspected that the DNC at the time had put not just their thumb on the scale, but their bodies on the scale. And what the former interim chair has presented shows just that. And, you know, Roland, it's not just even about the emotion behind this. It's about the economics. And as you read through the excerpt, there was a deal made that I will pay for everything. Money has to come through me, and then you do as I say. That's exactly what was revealed here. And it certainly was a disservice not only to the Sanders campaign, but also to the thousands of people who gave donations through that fund, thinking that it was going to their states, only to find out that the money that went through the DNC from the states went right back to the Clinton campaign. The Democratic Party definitely needs not just unity, but it needs reform and unity, and it certainly needs truth and reconciliation to move forward.
It was very interesting yesterday. I saw a lot of folks on social media blasting Donna, saying, why is she throwing the party under the bus? Why is she revealing these things? These are things that people should not know. But if you don't know what took place, you don't know what to fix.
That's right. That's right. And it's insane. And that's why if the Democrats don't deal with this and admit, you know, confession is good for the soul, that, you know, people will forgive almost anything. But what they won't forgive is people not being authentic, telling them it's raining when it's not rain, it's really something else. And so the DNC is going to have to come to grips with this and decide as a party how it is going to move forward with integrity, transparency, and authenticity. But pretending like this didn't happen and you know, trying to come down hard on Donna is not going to work. I guess the next thing they're going to be saying is that she's a Russian bot or a Republican. Next.
Michael Blake, I want to bring you in. You now hold a position Donna Brazile used to hold, that is vice chair of the Democratic Party. Tom Perez is now the chair of the party. And so your assessment of this revelation from Donna Brazile, of course, her book comes out. And there are other things I'm sure that will be in the book as well that will be unsettling to Democrats. But Mike, one of the things that jumped out is that in her excerpt that must contend with is literally the fact that President Obama left the party in tatters. They shifted his campaign debt in 2012 to the DNC, putting them in a hole. And as the person who's over the party, does he, need to accept some blame in terms of how dysfunctional the DNC was from 2014 through the election.
Well, we've always said, Roland and others, that things needed to be done differently. That the way the operation was going forward in many different manners could have been improved upon. We've always acknowledged that one of the improvements and shifts that should have happened and could have happened was greater engagement. But that's the reason why we ran for leadership. That's the reason why we're in these roles now, which we took over these roles on February 25th of this year for a 4-year term. You know, Nina and I have obviously known each other for years, and I'm grateful to have had her support. Continue hopefully to have her support as well in terms of helping to turn this around. To Nina's points, that's why we have a Unity Reform Commission to help make these changes. That's the reason why we're very focused on engaging in terms of creating new structures, new silos. When you look at the current structure, the earliest joint fundraising agreements with the states have now been signed. Every single state, Roland, is receiving $10,000 a month as of October. On top of that, a competitive fund up to $15 million so that states and local entities can demonstrate how to be engaged on the ground. And it's working. And that's the reason why we are feeling optimistic about Virginia and New Jersey, Florida, New York, Charlotte, et cetera. So we understand things happened before. We don't dismiss that, but we're taking it seriously, and that's the movements we're making now.
Is the DNC still financially strapped? What is the state of the party's finances? Obviously, you have those critical state races, but you also, of course, are focused on the midterms, and all too often folks wait until May or June, July, or even late in the fall. Many say that the party really needs to be driving grassroots organizing and mobilizing right now in advance of 2018.
Well, we're absolutely focused on the grassroots and that organizing now. And that's the reason why we had Resistance Summer, which had organizers across the country throughout the summer. When you look at the reason why we're optimistic going into next year, it's because of the investments making this year across the country. When you recognize that we need 24 congressional pickups in 2018, that's going to happen in large part because of what we're investing in building in these parties now and engaged. That's the reason why we're going out to Pennsylvania, for example, this weekend for their slate of 8 judicial candidates. On top of that, their district attorney and comptroller race locally, or the state of Washington, where they're going to have a pickup for the Senate district. So these things are happening to be investing and engaged. Now, look, the Republican Party always has had a fundraising advantage over that. There's no surprise around that. But when you think about 2006, where Republicans outraised Democrats 2-1, we still took back Congress. So it comes down to, do you have the resources to win, which we're convinced we will, and that's in large part because people are believing in these shifts. Now, I want to be also very clear. In order for us to make this progress and wins, we have to come together. That means we have to acknowledge when faults happen, have to acknowledge when mistakes happen, and move forward united in a different manner. And we have a chance in Virginia, in New Jersey, in New York, in Charlotte, to set that message, set that tone, so that when we go into next year, not only will it help us have more fundraising, but have the ability to have better candidates and stronger candidates. Last point on this, Emily's List, for example, usually has about 950 women who have signed up to run across the country. At this point, they have more than 16,000 have reached out. We understand things are happening, and that's why we're investing in every zip code count strategy, school board to Senate, city council to Congress, state house to White House, and that's the new vision of the DNC.
Nate, I got to ask you this question, and this is one that is, again, when you look at the reaction, this whole back and forth between Senator Bernie Sanders supporters and Hillary Clinton supporters. Senator Sanders is still an independent. So the question that I constantly get from people on my timeline and when I read other stories is, how can someone who's not a Democrat keep trying to tell the party what it should do if he won't join the party? What answer do you have to that constant refrain I keep seeing from people? Should Bernie Sanders formally join the Democratic Party?
You know, that's a question that skirts around what the real issues and the real problems are. Senator Bernie Sanders is the longest-serving independent in that Congress. He caucuses with the Democrats. People want to pose that question. Let's pose that question to Senator Chuck Schumer and the other Democrats in the U.S. Senate caucus who have placed Senator Sanders in a leadership position. Obviously, for them, it doesn't matter whether he has a D or an I behind his name. It is about a value proposition. So folks who continue to bring that up are not looking at what the issues that really matter to the people, which is who is standing for them, who is fighting for them, who has been consistent. That is the bigger question. And I'm certainly glad to hear Michael, who I did support, and he knows he has my support, talk about some of the things that the DNC is doing. But just winning races does not mean that the toxic environment that has been created by former leaders of the DNC is over. Those things have to be addressed, not just covered over. You know, I've traveled to 12 states in 60 days, and I can tell you that the people are hurting. They are upset. They are disappointed, and this revelation just further reminds them and takes away the ability to trust. So when I say truth and reconciliation, I mean just that, not this let's come together, let bygones be bygones, let's beat the Republicans. That didn't work last year. Saying let's pick, the evil is lurking didn't work last year. That's why Mr. Trump is in the White House. So if the Democrats ever hope to win back independence that they need to win back people who exited, they're going to have truth and reconciliation. And Roland, another point on this is not just about Senator Sanders supporters or Secretary Clinton supporters. The last time I checked, Governor O'Malley is a Democrat, like with a D behind his name. Governor Lincoln Chafee, Democrat, with a D behind his name. They were in that primary too. What is being revealed shows that the Democratic Party at the time had already chosen the candidate that they wanted, and they didn't hide it. And I commend, Donna Brazile for having the courage to lay this out there. The question becomes, what is the Democratic Party going to do for real? Not for fake,
but
for
see
real.
See, Nina, was interesting, and I'm going to take this up with my panel in just a second. And I want you and Michael to respond, and if I can do it in 30 seconds each. 2004, Politico did a story I think it was last year, where President Obama decided in 2014 that Hillary Clinton was going to be the Democratic nominee and was the person best suited to replace him. In their piece, they talked about how he was dissuading his own Vice President Joe Biden from running. So I got to ask both of you this question. And that story was written, and people are like, okay, whatever. If Obama was the president of the United States, and he was a leader of the party, and he concluded in 2014 that Hillary Clinton was the best person to replace him as president, shouldn't folks also be asking that question? Because if you're in the party and your party leader is sending that signal, aren't you pretty much going to follow his lead? Nina, then Michael.
Well, obviously the people didn't, Roland. Mr. Trump is the president of the United States. The Democrats lost last year. We are not Great Britain. People get choice in this country. We might not like their choices, but they get choice. They get a chance to vote. They get a chance to decide. And that's another part of the problem, the arrogance to think that even President Obama could decide who's going to be the next Democratic nominee. It didn't work. It doesn't work, and that's not what democracy means.
Got it. Michael Blake?
So first, so we're all on the same page. Senator Sanders also signed that joint fundraising agreement. That's an important distinction, so we're not missing out on this point itself.
But he didn't have control of the staff and the money, so don't say that, Michael. Don't say that. He didn't control the staff and the money and dictate and put the Democratic Party on the starvation diet. He didn't do any of that, didn't have that kind of authority. Donna Brazile didn't have to go to him to get a press release put out. She said she had to go to Brooklyn.
Neither of us, and again, Nina and I are friends, neither of us were in the building to know what was happening at that point. We are talking about what we're doing now. And to Nina's point
I'm going to take her word for it, though.
Yeah, we hear her, and Donna's a good friend of all of ours, right? But we're talking about in here and now, the direction of where we're going. Look, there is the understanding, Roland, that things could have been done differently. We recognize that, we receive that, and we're not going to ignore that. But to Nina's point, I do want to make sure we crystallize this. People want to hear us talk about what we're going to do for them and how we're going to fight for a better deal for their jobs, a better deal for education, a better deal for healthcare, better deal for criminal justice reform, to make it clear that no one's taking a knee against the flag or taking a knee against police brutality. And we have a chance to send that message. And when we think about the election impact, You know, when you think about how Warner won the governor's race in Virginia by less than 1 percentage point, that's why we have to be so focused on Northam and Fairfax and Herring, those down ballot races. But all that effort is necessary to make sure we have a strong message next Tuesday. That's how we can help rebuild in the party.
All right, Michael Blake, Nina Turner, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Roland.
Thank you.
All right, I want to bring in my panel, Brandon Cooper, Chairman of the Prince George's County, Maryland Republican Party, Dr. Cleo Monago, Behavioral Health and Cultural Analyst, Amber J. Phillips, co-host of the Black Joy Mixtape Podcast. Cleo, I'll start with you. What is, again, I want to pick up on that point that I just made, that when I read that political story, I mean, literally, Obama concluded Vice President Joe Biden really wasn't the guy. And so I remember reading the story, and everybody was just talking about how, oh, the other Democrats, and I'm going, wait a minute, Obama was a leader of the party. And as early as 2014, he said Hillary is going to be the person who really should follow me into the White House. And I'm just saying, if he is the leader of the party, shouldn't people be saying, wait a minute, that you made that decision, so other people naturally were going to follow where they felt they should go?
Well, of course they're going to follow him. He was a leader, as you said, of the party. But as someone just mentioned, obviously that was problematic, because even though people wanted everybody to follow Hillary, Hillary was doing things that people inside the party had problems with, and he created a power keg that blew up in everybody's face. But I agree with you that that's usually the assumption people make, that they're going to follow what the leader of the party says. But as Donna has revealed, there was too much dysfunction going on for that to actually roll out into something positive for the Democratic Party.
Brandon, I think about 2000. You had candidates running. It obviously came down to George W. Bush and Senator John McCain. Anybody who understands politics knows that the Republican Party was all behind George W. Bush. Now, it may not have been as blatant as this, but the reality is this. When Daddy Bush opened up his friends, I mean, literally, they all sided with then Texas Governor George W. Bush. And so I know folks are going, oh, my God, I can't believe what Donna wrote. But it's not like you don't see this sort of thing in politics.
Yeah, exactly right. And Nina said it best. She's one of my favorite Democrats from my birth state of Ohio. That this is nothing new. You know, you're right. 2000 was a little bit. I think it's new that it's to this degree that Donna Brazile revealed to us, but this is nothing new. A lot of us knew last year, you know, all Republicans and some Democrats knew that the primary was fixed, but it took someone like Donna Brazile, who's widely respected along all circles.
1 second. Okay, hold up, 1 second. You said the primary was fixed. First of all, let's deal with the factual correction.
Okay.
No. People still vote. People still vote. Folks still voted in Iowa and New Hampshire. It's different to say a party apparatus was behind Hillary Clinton, and then for you to say a primary was fixed. That's an important distinction.
Exactly, and let me be clear. I will quote Democrats on saying that. If you bring Nina back on, I'm pretty sure she would say similar lines, that the primary was fixed, rigged, slanted, whatever you want to say. You have Elizabeth Warren, one of the progressive leaders, now saying yesterday that it was rigged for Hillary. So verbiage, whatever you want to say, but the fact is that the body, as Nina said, was definitely on the scale for Clinton. And it's something that we all have known, but it took someone like Donna, who's widely respected, including myself, to bring it out, and you know, it's indisputable.
But and again, Amber, it's a different thing to say the primary was fixed. That sounds like votes were fixed in favor of Hillary Clinton as opposed to individuals. I mean, she still had to run. Sanders still had to run.
Exactly. And I think what is important to mention is that we're actually having a conversation, one, about gatekeepers. This might be the first time that gatekeepers have worked against a white man running for office, I might add. But we can look at the long history of our country. We had 43 white men be president of the United States. So, of course, now that, I'm sorry, but I have to throw race into this, now that Hillary Clinton, as a white woman, and we protect white women and they're often seen as victims, this will be the first time that we actually have a real conversation about gatekeeping because of Bernie Sanders and the other folks who are in the primary. Until we address things like Citizens United and campaign finance reform, both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are up for sale.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV1.